Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Wednesday, March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Let's be completely honest. Are you happy with your job? The fact is, a huge number of people can't say yes to that. Too many of us are stuck in a job we've outgrown or one we never really wanted in the first place. But we stick it out and we give reasons like, what if the next move is worse? And I've put years into this place. And maybe the most common one, isn't everyone miserable at work? But there's a difference between reasons for staying and excuses for not leaving. It's time to get unstuck. It's time for Strawberry.me. They match you with a certified career coach who helps you get from where you are to where you want to be, either at your existing job or by helping you find a new one. Your coach helps clarify your goals, creates a plan, and keeps you accountable along the way. Go to strawberry.me/career and get 50% off your first coaching session. That's strawberry.me/career.
I'm Gary Birdles, one of the old gits from a long time ago. You've got to tune into Tricky Talks, I believe, so just do it. All the best.
Robertson, the first time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robertson do. And still Robertson, getting his shot in, and a goal! Robertson!
Hello and welcome along to the Tricky Talks podcast. What a week it's been for Forest with two massive wins in an important part of the season. Here with me to discuss what this means for Forest for the remainder of the season are Chelsea, Catty and Mollo. How you doing, Chelsea?
Yeah, I'm full of a cold, so if I sound a bit different, just ignore me, but I am absolutely elated with how this week has gone for Forest. I cannot wait to get into this pod.
Yeah, thought you might be. And I don't mean Catty, of course, I do mean Kate, but that was an in-joke for something that was referenced on social media, wasn't it, Kate? So how are you doing?
I mean, I've been called worse, Simon. It's all good. It's all good. I am feeling the effects, shall we say, of a heavy week watching Forest and following them all over the flipping place, but still living my best life, so I don't care.
And last but not least, Mollo is here. How are you doing, sir?
Yep, I've had worse weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been a great week, hasn't it? Let's start right at the beginning of that, though, because we weren't able to bring you a pod at the back end of last week because you guys were in Midtjylland, of course, and we want to talk about that very briefly, don't we, because we haven't yet discussed it. I'll start with you, Kate, because you went on a bit of a rant in last week's pod against Pereira for playing the B team, and quite rightly so. You had a very valid point, but at the end of the day, it paid off, didn't it? His selection was right because they won.
Yeah, I've never been so happy to be wrong about that. And I was still fuming when the team sheet dropped and we were stood in that stadium. I thought, oh my goodness, I think I sent something along the lines of might as well go home now. Because I didn't have any confidence in them that they would come out and pull off a performance like they did. But the fact that they did is such a massive, massive boost for our season, and not just in Europe, but just the idea that these players that we've always known should be able to do it, but just haven't been. The idea that they can now come off the bench as impact subs, make a difference, be the next man up, is massive for our season, massive for our hopes of staying in the Premier League, and massive for our next trip to Europe.
Yeah, for me, Mollo, there's no more excuses now in terms of people or staff complaining that they are tired, because they've got a scenario where they now play 2 games in a week, 2 very important games, and it's worked, the team selection. They can't use fitness or tiredness as an excuse any longer. Now, fortunately, we have a bit of a break for the players to rest up and recharge a little bit, certainly those that are not on international duty. But I don't want to hear any more now from Pereira about them being tired, because they've dealt with it and they've proved they can deal with it. So it can't be used as an excuse anymore, can it?
No, absolutely not. But unfortunately, going forward in both competitions, we're not going to be playing teams of the lack of all-round quality of Midtjylland and the lack of heart of Spurs. But I utterly take your point. And weirdly, when the team was announced, and I put the shape together in my head what I thought it was going to look like, I actually said to Ellie, and I had a discussion for them because we saw Dora and everyone and Kate inside. I felt like the shape was pretty good. Obviously, the personnel we were unsure about, but I thought, well, the shape meant with a left-footed left-sided player, a right-footed right-sided player with loads of width, I actually felt it might do okay. What I hadn't expected was that, aside from Yates being an absolute colossus at miles ahead of everyone, that I'd be using the words, why is he taking off Bakwa and McAtee? There's a sentence, McAtee finally showed us what we might be able to expect in the future when he's up against Premier League teams, if he could play like that. So ultimately, no excuses for being tired because they were mostly fresh players. Some of the A-team came on and weirdly we got worse, but ended up playing quite a few minutes and what have you. But I think the feel-good factor of winning a penalty shootout quite possibly carried over to some extent as well, because we never looked in trouble against Midtjylland until we started making the subs. It was just ironic that we all wanted that A-team, we all said play your best team, and when we did, we kind of dipped, and I think it was purely because they were defensive substitutions and invited them on, and we lost that width. And I've got two words to say to sum up the game as well, why I felt like I was in a parallel universe. Backwards corners. Amazing.
Well, set pieces is something that I want to come on to with regards to the Spurs game, actually, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But just before we leave the Midtjylland conversation and the Europa League conversation in general, Forest have potentially got 4 more games to play if they want to get through to the final. So that's 2 quarterfinals, home and away, and obviously the semi. 3 of those 4 ties are immediately preceding a home game. So that's something that potentially might work in their favour in terms of limiting travel. The only exception to that is Chelsea away, which is one, I think, that after one of the semi-final dates, I can't remember which one. But of all the other 4 potential games, 3 of them they've got home games the following weekend. So that's a good thing, I think.
Realistically, 3 of them will be in the Midlands as well, if we get through.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yes. Right, on to Spurs then. And we're all sitting here with happy smiley faces, aren't we, after a tremendous result at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let's start with you, Chelsea. You said you were very happy at the top of the show, and I know you were a little nervous about the run-in, given where Forest were. Are you feeling a little happier now?
I am. It was one of them ones when you think, miracles do happen. Because I went into that game, and I remember saying on the pod before, and you said it as well, Simon, that I was feeling like it was a cup final. And I know a lot of people were feeling that way. A lot of Forest fans were. And
Spurs fans.
And Spurs fans. And it was, I honestly predicted a 1-0 Spurs win first, because I couldn't see us scoring. And then we just bang out a 3-0 win. And I just could not believe it. It was like this whole week, and the Spurs game, just to round it off, the feeling that I had was almost what I've been waiting for all season. I've been waiting for this feeling that we're in the quarterfinal in Europe and, we beat Spurs 3-0, and it was just, I feel like the passion's back. I feel like everything Forest fans is just coming back. And to be, 2 places clear from the drop, I just feel a little bit more relieved. I know we're not out of the woods yet, but it's better. It was almost a 6-pointer game for me.
You mentioned about it being a cup final. It was really weird, wasn't it? Because Spurs were literally treating it as a cup final, given the flares and watching the team bus drive into the stadium. It was really weird how they flipped from having a pre-match demonstration against the board to completely going the opposite way and going way over the top to support their team and tried to make a difference. And it backfired tremendously because Spurs couldn't handle the occasion, I don't think. Whether the fans made it a lot worse for them by doing what they did, which was a bit of an overreaction, as I say. They couldn't handle the occasion, I don't think, and Forest handled it perfectly. And I think we have to start there, don't we, with the defensive resolve that they showed, especially in the first half. Give Spurs a little bit of credit because they did put us under a significant amount of pressure after the early stages of the game, Kate, and you've got to give an enormous amount of credit for the way the defence handled it because they were rock solid, weren't they? Especially Milenkovic and Murillo at the heart of that defence.
They were. But just to hark back to the whole Spurs gathering, the call to arms or whatever you might want to name it, we had to walk through that from where we parked. And I can tell you, it was just a load of people in white shirts looking a little bit lost and like they weren't sure what they were supposed to be doing. There was no cheering, there was no singing. And as we walked through, somebody said to one of the people we were with, "Oh, you're brave, aren't you?" And we were like, "Are we?" Because it was just a whole load of nothing, which is what they ended up being on the pitch. Just a whole load of nothing, you know? And I walked through that and I thought, this is not the least bit intimidating. You know, they've been shouting all about it over social media, and I know it was covered on Sky because I've seen it sort of retrospectively. But that's what it was. It was a whole lot of nothing. And when we got in there, you know, they've said about how the whole fan base was behind them. And to be fair to them, it wasn't the usual library. It wasn't. But it was still fairly minimal. You know, I didn't feel like, oh my goodness, we're getting drowned out by all these Spurs fans. A couple of songs, and they had a couple of claps and cheers, but it was much of a muchness. And I do think, to give them some credit, they played better than us in the first half. They did. They were more on top, and I lost count of the amount of corners that we conceded. But having said that, we defended with our lives, and we dealt with pretty much everything they had to throw at us. And that in itself was a comfort, because it didn't feel desperate at any point. You know, it was a bit nervy, and it was a bit like, come on, come on, come on. But it wasn't, oh my goodness, we're about to lose this at any point. And when that goal went in right before half-time, it felt like, okay, now what have you got? And the answer to that was pretty much nothing. So for me, and I am a very nervous watcher of football, very, very nervous watcher, I had a pretty comfortable afternoon.
Let's talk about the goal then, Mollo, because first off, I think they were quite fortunate to have the goal in the first place, because I sent you a picture, didn't I, to the group around where Nico Williams had placed the ball for the corner, and Danny's friend, funnily enough, had gone to the game and was sat not very far away from that corner down the side because he's a Spurs fan. And he, after the goal went in, he sent Danny a message saying the ball was placed out of the quadrant. And I looked at the replay and sent you a picture, and sure enough, it looks like the ball was placed outside the quadrant. So maybe Forrest got away with one there. And I also made the point that I was watching the back post for the corner, and Jesus was literally being manhandled at the back post. It was so crowded. How he managed to lose his marker, Mollo, and nod the ball in. I just have to keep watching it, not to follow the ball, but just to follow the movement of the players. You can tell he's good at that sort of thing, as we've seen before with goals at the back post. But he managed to lose his marker, didn't he, and nod it in. And it was a tremendous header, given how crowded it was at that back post.
He kind of lost his marker, didn't he? It was, firstly, a fantastic ball in, which we've not been used to. And then suddenly we've had Bakwa the other night, and then Nico yesterday. But the way he lost his marker was he just stood firm, and he let Spence sort of try and do what Spence was doing. And I love Jed Spence, not got a bad word to say about him. But as the ball came over, he just levered him out of the way, and before you knew it, he was stood in a weird yard of space. I don't think he even jumped, did he? He just literally smashed it straight back where it came from. Poor keeper, didn't get anywhere near it. And it was just a really, it was always that sort of game where a set-piece goal might be crucial, we thought, and that changed the game because I don't know if I'm a nervous watcher or not, but I actually felt like they were, I wouldn't say dominating us, but the better team and looked far more likely to score. The one where I thought it could be our day was because Richarlison and Solanke they're kind of the players, aren't they, that often score against us. And that one that came off Jesus, and then I could see the way it was going. I could see Richarlison at the back post. I'm thinking, well, no one's going to beat him in the air coming from there. And then it hit the kind of like the higher part of the post, didn't it? So it kind of made him unable to head it. And that was kind of a bit of a turning point, wasn't it, for us in many ways. And then, of course, the goal itself was headed in beautifully. They went up the other end and Sells pulls out an absolute worldie. I could not believe. I just thought it hit the bar first of all. But it was actually a wonderful, wonderful save, and fair play to him for that. But after that, like Kate said, they had nothing. It was, I think on Match of the Day, they were talking about how brittle they were. I'd like to think we wouldn't have been, but that first goal made such a difference. They went from being the better side, if we're honest, and looking, I wouldn't say dangerous, because our back four, particularly centre-backs, did what they do so well, and did last season. They fell off a cliff, didn't they? From really having the upper hand in midfield, we then took the upper hand and absolutely smashed it in midfield, and the game, we dominated and played really well second half, and it could have been more.
Yeah, probably what didn't help their cause was Tudor taking off Jed Spence and Van der Ven at half-time, and which was really strange because they weren't doing that bad. And in fact, Van der Ven had Hutchinson in his pocket for most of that half because that was down in our corner. Given the size difference and the physicality advantage that he had over Hutchinson, it was a no contest, I thought. So it was really surprising to see those two get taken off. And
Tell was doing really well. He was their most dangerous player.
Did he get injured though?
Maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't know. He was the one who was bothering me down that side. But you know, after the event, we now know perhaps he had other things on his mind, so I'm not going to go in hard on their manager at all. But it was one of them where I was relieved to see who they took off. I wonder, because of the nature of Spence, whether they called him out for losing a man for a goal and it's exploded a bit in the changing room, especially if he's holding that inside himself, the manager, whilst managing the side, and he's gone into one and pulled him off. I don't know, but yeah. It was some odd substitutions, but I don't think, we'll never know, I don't think that was the massive game changer. I think the goal was a game changer, and it destroyed their what little brittle confidence they had. I can't believe, though, they've had all these injuries, but some of those players, they're a shadow of a player we've seen play a year or two back. Porro, do you remember the guy that used to play right back for Spurs that was quite good? They've got some look-alike now, I think, because he was dreadful.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Solanke was the same. He's a player in the past who's done some damage, most notably when he was at Bournemouth. I remember seeing him score a hat-trick at the City Ground. He was very quiet. I was quite worried beforehand of seeing Solanke and Richarlison up front as a tandem, and they didn't really do too much damage. If anything, they rarely posed a threat. Maybe Richarlison more than Solanke, but Solanke was very disappointing. But it That goal did tip the balance, Chelsea, didn't it? It was a massive psychological boost to going 1-up at half-time, and the second half did seem a lot more comfortable. It was Spurs only threatened on occasions, notably when they were 2 or 3 down, I think, when Selves pulled a couple more worldies, I seem to recall. But Forest looked more than comfortable and going forwards, and obviously it resulted in a decent effort by Gibbs-White, thanks to a great bit of play down the wing from Hudson-Odoi. But what was your reaction when that goal went in? Because from out where we sat, it was almost like, did that go in? Oh, it did, because the keeper got a hand to it and you couldn't clearly see where the ball was. It was only when Gibbs-White peeled away that we realised we'd scored. But what were your thoughts, Chelsea, as that went in? You must have been ecstatic.
Oh, yeah, well, I was at first because I'd done the exact same thing. Me and Dad were watching it and we were like, oh yeah, you jump off and then you go, oh no, sit back down again. And I was like, no, it's in. And we literally just were running around the room. I genuinely at first did not think that had gone in. But I think from going in from going into half-time, knowing that we were 1-0 up, I think it just allowed them to just have the confidence just to go back out, and then ended up scoring another 2. Gibbs' White goal was absolutely brilliant. I mean, Awoni's third goal, where it came off his shin as well, from a crossing from Williams. The whole game was brilliant. Defensively, we were absolutely fantastic. And one thing that I will say is our substitutions, they seem to just add value now, rather than how many times, like even with Dyche as well, and even with Nuno to a certain extent, you always had this nervy feeling of every time they made a substitution, it never felt like a like-for-like substitution. It always felt like, the shape and the formation had just gone a bit weird. No one knew where they kind of were fitting in. No one knew how to play. It's like, oh yeah, where shall I go now? And it all seemed a bit erratic, whereas now it's like for like, it's calculated substitutions, and I didn't feel as nervous when all those substitutions were made. So yeah, the game was brilliant. The goals were absolutely fantastic. I still didn't feel comfortable even when we were 2-0 up after Gibbs White's goal went in, to be honest. I was like, I need a third and then I will be happy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe you like cooking. Maybe you don't. Either way, the new Blue Apron is for you. Because along with our classic meal kits, we're offering new pre-made and one-pan meals to help you get dinner on the table fast. And now there's no subscription needed, so you can just order and enjoy. Do delicious food your way. Shop 100+ meals at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit BlueApron.com/terms for more.
Do you, when Forest score and you're watching it with your dad, Chelsea, do you literally run around the room celebrating?
Yeah, it's more of Dad's more of like the shouter, whereas I'm more of the, you just stand up and go, and then you just don't make a single noise. Right.
The reason I ask that is because shift patterns permitting, I'm going to be going around yours to watch Porto away, aren't I? And I'm trying to wonder what I've let myself in for.
Do you know what? My dad said one thing to me. I said, yeah, so I'm just waiting for my rotor to come in to make sure I'm not working. I said, and we're going to watch the game with Simon. And Dad went to me, I better be on my best behaviour then.
No, please not. I don't want him to be on his best behaviour, because I can't sit and watch a game on telly and not cheer when there's a goal, or just I don't want to just clap my hands like a seal. So I wanted to be able to celebrate. So if you guys are running around the room celebrating, then I'll be doing it with you, I can assure you.
Absolutely, so. Simon, don't you worry about that.
Excellent. Let's get on to the third goal by Awoniyi then, because I want to skip a minute, because when it was 2-0 and it was obviously Gibbs White's goal, I don't know whether this came across on the telly, Chelsea, but obviously we were there, so we knew and we heard it, that it was Spurs had got a corner right in front of where we were. And whilst we were waiting for the corner to be taken, because I think there was an injury over the other side, the Forest fans decided to chant Morgan Gibbs White, he stayed because you're shit, to that tune.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I don't know whether you saw, but Gibbs White was absolutely pissing himself laughing. And I think there is a clip going around on social media. I don't know whether it's still up, but you could see him, how much he was smiling and laughing as that chant was going on in the background. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Because you don't often see players react to chants, because they're so focused, aren't they, in playing the game. You might get the occasional thumbs up or a wave, but for somebody
Yatesy starting a chant.
Yeah, Yatesy starting a chant is awesome. But that moment when there was just a lull, and you couldn't not hear it, because that was the only thing going on in the stadium. I thought that was really funny.
It gets a mention in the Tottenham comments, because somebody's posted all the Tottenham comments, which are classic delusional Tottenham comments. But one guy does give it a mention and said, "This is a low point of my season." It's quality.
Love
I've
that.
said, by the way, how many passes? How good was that goal? When I watched it last night, I realised how many passes, and the Mickey taking where. I think it was Anderson and Nico who just doing that side-to-side passing on the halfway line, and then the Spurs fans got on the case of their players, so they came to close down, so they just passed it through, went through to Hudson-Odoi, and the rest, as we know, And I thought he'd missed at the time, but watching it last night, he hit it really hard, didn't he? So a brilliant goal that was, absolutely brilliant goal.
Not wishing to go off on a tangent too much, I saw some stuff on social media from Max Scott talking about that goal and talking about the fact that most owners would have sold Gibbs White in the summer, and we know where he was supposed to be going. But say what you like about Marinakis, he hung on to Morgan Gibbs White, and what an absolute talisman he has been. And he was there to score that goal at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And Marinakis is the man that we thank for that. Along with Morgan, obviously, who, like you say, was living his best life and having a great time. But I thought I totally get what he was saying there. And yeah, say what you like about Marinakis. We did very, very well to keep Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah. Right, on to the third goal then. And it was my favourite of the lot, Kate, in terms of just what a superb ball from Nico Williams. And I'm coming to you because I know how much you like Nico, but it was probably the cross of the game, wasn't it? And it's so great of Awoniyi to be there. I know it looked like he shinned it, but it was a controlled shin, wasn't it?
How
He very
many
much
points have we
needed
got
that.
from his shin in the last 3-4 years. That's what I'm saying. I don't get. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a controlled shot, wasn't it? And perfectly timed cross, perfectly timed run. And that one we did realise had gone in because we had a clear view of that one. But it was a tremendous cross by Nico first off.
It was a beautifully well-worked goal from a team that were on top and had found that confidence. And do you know what it was? It was clinical. They were clinical goals. You know, we've spoken about this so much, about how they've had chances and they've not taken them and they've not been clinical. And that's what that was. You're right, it was a sensational cross that found the striker in the box who stuck it in the back of the net. And what more can you ask than that? It was absolutely fantastic. And I tell you what, Taiwo Awoniyi does like to score in London, doesn't he? He does like a London away goal.
Yeah,
Bring him on, stick it in the back of the net. Absolutely fantastic.
What it's proved is that Awoniyi's got a part to play for the rest of the season now. Obviously, he can't do that in the Europa League, but certainly in the Premier League, he's got a part to play. And you put that alongside the fact that Chris Wood is reportedly going to be coming back soon. And if you read certain comments on social media, it's going to be very soon, given the fact there's a couple of weeks break now before the next league games. All of a sudden, we have options up front, don't we, potentially, albeit Chris Wood, is going to have a bit part to play in the early stages, and it remains to be seen how they manage his minutes. But even that's going to be a bit of a boost, Mollo.
100%, and I'm going to get slaughtered for this by some people, but bar a 20-minute period in the second half at Midtjylland, I thought Luca did really well. Obviously, he missed his golden opportunity, but as a forward play, he did very, very well. He held up play, he was a nuisance. Weirdly, he's not that great in the air, but he's on the floor, he was decent. Probably our fourth choice, having started the other night, because as you say, I don't know, you can't expect Wood to drop straight in and score 20 goals or whatever equivalent, but that said, didn't he score within about 5 minutes of playing in the under-21 game the other day? It's a big ask, but it can't be a bad thing, because a fully fit Chris Wood, not match fit, but a fully fit and firing Chris Wood in terms of being fit, coming off the bench against tired legs for 20 minutes, initially, like you say, with the minutes, that's amazing. And it's the different options, because Taiwo is a handful no matter what, and he's now getting the odd goal again. He's got the best shin pads in the world. I love them because they always seem to work. So it can't be a bad thing. But what I will say, and it's only one game, it's only recent. This week has been amazing. But what a good time for these B team players and the strikers to start to find a bit of form, because you don't win anything in the first part of the season, and you don't go down in the first month unless you're Wolves the way they did it. So, if between those four strikers they can get another 8 or 9 goals between them for the rest of the season, we could be in a very, very good place. And competition's good. You assume if they're all fit that we won't keep Luca anyway, so going forward it means we could have 3 fit strikers. So yeah, it can only be positive is what I'd say. And for Jesus to score, Jesus was really clinical because he earned the corner in the first place with a really good strike, didn't he? That got the goal. And you put the 3 goals together. I meant to say earlier, we scored the best selection of goals: a set piece, a pass and move, passing however many times, and then a long pass, long ball from the keeper out wide, and a cross into the box from wide. So, variety of goals. The old long ball or whatever. Beautiful.
I do want to talk about a couple of players who are worthy of a mention. First off, Chelsea, Matt Sells, because he pulled off that worldie that Mono mentioned earlier in the first half where he tipped it onto the crossbar. But he did pull off a couple of really good saves in the second half as well. One, I was literally right behind and saw him dive full length and tip it round the post. Not sure which player it was that tried the shot. Maybe it's Solanke, not sure. And I'm sure he did another worldie as well in the second half, fairly shortly after that. And at that point, the game hadn't been completely wrapped up. So, given the fact that Ortega was potentially in contention to play a part in that game, and ultimately the manager went with Sells, he played a significant role that perhaps hasn't necessarily got the credit in the media that it deserves, given the fact that they went and scored 3 goals at the other end.
Yeah, I've always said to Dad, even like with last season, having Sells in goal and his saves are worth a goal score. Because they are. The amount of saves that he has saved us from is absolutely ridiculous. And I dread to think what position we would be in if we haven't had Sells in goal. I was exactly the same as Mono. I thought that it had hit the bar, but it weren't. He'd actually pushed it up onto and then off the bar. He plays such a significant part, and I've always said with Murillo, Milenkovic and Sells, that triangle is absolutely solid, and Sells plays so much better when he knows that he's got Murillo and Milenkovic in front of him. He is a phenomenal goalkeeper. I don't know how many people I know who have got him in the FPL team as well.
We're tired now.
But he's a superb goalkeeper, and he is, like I've said before, his saves are worth as much as what a goal is to Forest, and especially how we have been this season, and we can't fault him. I know he didn't have loads of work to do against Spurs, but the work that he did do was absolutely significant.
Talking of FPL, Nico Williams was the top scoring FPL defender of the week with 2 assists and a clean sheet, Kate, and I come to you because it's Nico. He had a great game, and he's one of the contenders for man of the match for me. And I don't know whether you noticed how calm he was when he was in the second half, when he was down our corner and he was under pressure from multiple Spurs defenders. Yet every time he seemed to be able to get the ball out without conceding a corner or a throw-in and get it to another red shirt. Even sometimes when he was facing the corner flag itself. And I just thought, that's a player who's in good form.
Absolutely. And I think some of that does come off the back of the fantastic week that we had, the game in Denmark. And I know he didn't by any means play all of it, but there's nothing that gives you more confidence. There's nothing that gives you more energy in your legs. There's nothing that gives you more drive than winning a game and going through to a quarter-final. And I think you could say that, yes, you can absolutely say it about Nico. You can say it about a lot of the players that were on the pitch that day. We were playing with confidence. We were playing with confidence. We were taking our chances. We were trying stuff. There was a couple of times I turned to the people next to me and sort of said, I don't mind that. If they'd had a shot and it didn't go in, I don't mind that. He had that amazing shot. He nearly scored, didn't he, at the beginning of the second half as well. It was saved, and he was absolutely brimming with it, and a lot of them were. That's what I mean about having a comfortable afternoon. It was just a pleasure to watch.
Final player I want to talk about is one of your favourites, Mollo, in that there seems to be a bit of a cult going around at the minute. Would you like... we know who you're talking about. Would you like to explain more?
Oh, no, this is going to come back to bite me because it's hard. I think, some players seem to be immune from criticism in a sense, and if you think they've not had an amazing game when you say that, it's like, you don't know anything about football. And Sunday was a classic one where Anderson absolutely bullied their midfield. It was like men against boys in terms of the physicality, but he was the only one in the first half. And my concern before the game started to happen in that first half that we had Obviously, Hudson-Odoi, who's not renowned for his tackling. Hutchinson, who's very terrific little old-fashioned winger, but he's not renowned for physicality and tackling. And then obviously our two centre mids, and one of them not renowned for 50-50 tackling. Likes to get a yellow card though for the cowardly ones, like, you know, the sneaky leave your studs in, which could have been worse, to be fair. But yeah, it's becoming like a cult, isn't it? Because do you know what? Second half, he picked his game up, and this is why I get so frustrated when Sangare passes the ball forwards when he's in space, any sort of space, not just a little bit of space. He's so effective, and it moves the game forward. But it's like in that first half, the few times he did actually get on the ball and was in, you know, it was always backwards and sideways. And I totally get you've got to do that at times. But it's really frustrating, and he got that stupid yellow card, which meant he couldn't go in for certain tackles. He went in for one, and was some Spurs fans are raging that he wasn't sent off. But I don't comply with that. But yeah, it is that thing. I read somebody saying he controlled the midfield. Well, yeah, if you're talking about Anderson for the game, but and I don't. That sounds like a bit harsh. They're a partnership. They're supposed to be a partnership, and ultimately, what Sangare can offer is really, really good. I just want to see him offer it a bit more often. And I want to finish this season with having watched him smash someone in a 50-50 tackle. Not a foul, not a late tackle, not a tread on their foot with your studs, not a dangle your foot in and intercept the ball, which is absolutely fine as well. Don't get me wrong, you win the ball. I'd love to see him just go in and smash someone. Just, you know, within the rules. Just to prove to me that he can do it. And not that he cares what I think, because, you know, he's an international footballer and what have you. But second half, he played quite well. First half, he was missing in action for most of it, wasn't he? But he did win a header on Sunday as well, which is good.
So if Sangare does do one of these 50-50 tackles and smash the opposing player, that surely is going to mean that's your Mollo's moment for that game.
Without a shadow of a doubt. If he go, you know, like Yates, he came on the other week against Fulham, and I think it was Bassey, wasn't it? He went in and just smashed him so hard, and then he tried to get the goal kick out of it. Tried to get the corner out of it. I'd love to see him do something like that.
So what was your Mollo's moment from Sunday then? If it wasn't Sangare and his tackling,
yeah, you know, could it be Sangare winning the header? I don't know. If you want that now, I'm afraid it's going to have to be that second goal, because that was when I knew Spurs had completely gone. And when that second goal went in, I mean, obviously the Gibbs-White banter was up there, but for me, when Gibbs-White scored that second goal, just because what it meant, the scoreline, the fact Spurs weren't coming back, but because it was Gibbs-White against Spurs, it's like when he scored against Wolves, isn't it? It just adds to it. And like I said, that thread that came through with Spurs fans' comments from one of their things, saying it had to be him, didn't it, and all that. And yeah, it did. And well deserved.
It was written in the stars. Yeah. Right, let's talk about man of the matches, Chelsea. Who are you going for?
I was tricky. This one. There was too many to choose from.
That's why it's tricky talks, Chelsea.
That's why it's tricky talks. I mean, Anderson, blessing me, covered every blade of grass. Gibbs-White, absolute class. But you can't have 2 assists and not get man of the match. So I'm going Nico Williams. He's industrious, he's reliable, and he's an absolute asset to our team. Nico Williams.
Good choice, but you might have to have words with the Premier League, because they gave their man of the match to Morgan Gibbs-White. So you need to have words, Chelsea.
I will. I'll have a word. Don't worry. I'll have a word.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. Kate, who's yours?
So much like Chelsea, I agonised over this. First half, I would have given it to Anderson. And Milenkovic, I know we've not mentioned him, but what a brick wall that man is. And, you know, played a lot on Thursday as well. Just Milenkovic was incredible, but it's got to be Nico for me. It just does.
No way.
Yeah, I know, it's a shocker, isn't it? It's a shocker. And I've genuinely tried to talk myself out of it this afternoon, and sat there and written down Gibbs-White, Elliot Anderson, Milenkovic. It's Nico. Nico's my man of the match.
You need to change that shirt from Yatesy to Nico behind you.
I think I might have to name the pod Nico Williams in man of the match shocker from Kate.
It's fair. It's fair.
It's like a tabloid headline, isn't it?
But argue with me. He was amazing, Simon.
He was. He's not going to get my man of the match. No, I'm going to go somewhere else. But who are you going with then, Molo?
What I'm going to say is any other game you're playing defence as solidly as Nico did. You nailed it about the calmness, his all-round superbness. Even managed to do just enough to stop Romero or whatever in a free header without actually giving away a penalty, and get 2 assists. Any other day of the week, because it was a 9 out of 10 performance, but we had a very rare 10 out of 10 performance. I don't think I've seen a better centre-half performance from anyone all season anywhere, even last season, than Milenkovic on Sunday. He was unreal. He's like the bionic man. It was incredible. And we know how good he is, we know how good he can be, but that was a level above anything I've ever seen him play. And I'm not saying he's done things like that in games, but he just did nothing wrong. Absolutely nothing. All that was missing was, well, maybe a couple of assists. He, in terms of being a centre-half of that ilk, and to outshine Murillo, who was superb as well, and you've mentioned a lot of them, Sells' work. Yeah, you could argue a case for 7 or 8 of them, couldn't you? Without a doubt. And in his own way, Jesus, for the job he did. But for me, I was just watching it and I was in awe of what Milenkovic. It reminded me of, this is going to sound like a weird one, but peak Jaap Stam, when he was at Man United, was one of the best centre-halves I've ever seen live. And I was like, wow, there's something about this guy. Like a magnet to the ball for every header and everything. And you could see what the fuss was about. He was that good on Sunday. And, I thought I was going to be giving it to Nico at one point, but just the way it went, it had to be Milenkovic, because you can't do any more in your position.
I thought you were talking about some South Korean player called Peak Jaap Stam. I was thinking, who's that? Yeah, then I realised who you meant. But just looking at you're right, Milenkovic was great, and he was very close to getting my vote as well, but I'm going to go with somebody else. But just looking at our season tally for Man of the Match awards, which I keep above me on my notice board here, Milenkovic hasn't had that many votes all season, which echoes what you think, and Molo, about him, kind of with it being his best performance of the season, because I think it was by a mile. He's not got very many Man of the Match votes from us all season long. I think 5 for the whole season. So it just shows you what a performance that was. But my Man of the Match is going to go to Matt Sells.
I knew it.
Because I think those saves he made, like I said earlier, have gone under the radar for their importance, given the fact that Forest scored 3 at the other end. And had he not made that save in the first half, when he tipped it onto the bar, it could have been a completely different story. We'll never know. But I thought it was a performance worthy of Man of the Match.
I think one thing's for sure, though, Simon, if we'd have swapped goalkeepers, it would have been a very different game. So you cannot. I'm not criticising the picking of Nico, really, because he was sensational as well. And like you say, 2 assists.
Right. We'll talk about what this means for the rest of the season shortly, but first of all, we're going to break off and have our usual quiz, I hope, and an FPL update. So shall we start with you, Kate, please?
Okay. So the quiz question today is about Taiwo Awoniyi, our hero for that 3rd goal. So it's quite a simple question. How many goals across all competitions has Taiwo Awoniyi scored for Nottingham Forest?
What, this season or ever?
Ever.
Okay, let's park that.
I'll be generous. You can give me ballparks. We'll see who gets the closest.
Okay,
yeah.
well,
how many goals has Taiwo scored for Nottingham Forest across all competitions and all seasons that he's played for us?
So you can see Molo's head is whirring, trying to work out the answer. While he does that, Chelsea, we'll come back to that question at the end. Do you want to give an FPL update this week?
I will, yes. So, Simon, you have dropped only by 1 place.
No.
Only by 1 place. You're down to 5th. You got 46 points this week, so not your best week, Simon.
No.
That's all right. That's all right. And Molo, you're down to 14th.
Yeah.
Did you know?
Forgetting to change players when Arsenal and Man City aren't playing is not a great idea. Playing 5-a-side is not great, is it?
No, I was going to say, I did notice that you had 3, I think you had, that just didn't score you any. I think it was Haaland, Semenyo and Gabriel, I think, that you had still in your team. And Raya as well. See, and you scored 41. So to be fair, with 4 players out, still didn't do too badly, to be honest. But then it did work in my favour though, because I am now up to 16th place. So I'm 2 behind you now, Molly. I got 64 points, but I did use my free hit though, so that is why. So I done quite well with doing it that way. And Kate, you kept in 25th, so that's all right, Kate, with 44 points. And you did also use your free hit that I did see.
Yeah, I did it very, very quickly in a very nice coffee shop in Denmark when I suddenly realised that it was about to be time. So I did a very, very fast free hit, which didn't really work for me because a lot of the play I got -1 for one of them. But still, I did try.
Well, that's all right, Kate. You didn't drop, because usually I'm saying, yep, Kate, you've dropped down to this place, so at least you remain the same.
So anything else on FPL, Chelsea?
I mean, I was just saying, I think you mentioned it before, Simon, that Nico Williams was the top scorer of 15 points for Forest. And yeah, so we've only got 7 game weeks left, people. So if you do have any chips remaining, I suggest that you use them. I think I've only got my triple captain left. So yeah, make sure you use them up. And still reigning at the top is my cousin Jack, Mr. Jack Harrell, with 1,869 points, and he is still very much smug with himself. But in our mini league, Simon is still on top, just us 4, and I'm creeping up to Mollo.
How many chips has Jack got left, as a matter of interest? Do you know?
Let me have a look. Thing is, he's a bit quiet, and then he'll just come out with, "Oh yeah, I've done this." You know, quite smug.
Yeah, this is the time of the season where chips can play a really important part in getting huge rank gains and making up deficits in your mini leagues, depending on when you play them. So, interested to know how many he's played already.
Can you actually tell on here? Because I've gone onto his and I can't actually see.
I'm not sure, actually. You can on live FPL. Let me just see if I can get it up. We'll come back to that.
The only chips I'm good at using are the ones that come with burgers, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that with fish.
Yeah, I haven't got any. I feel I've still got all my chips to play. I think maybe not triple captain because I understood that one, but the others I need to have a little read.
You need to use them, Mollo.
Right, yeah. Jack has used his wild card and his bench boost, so he's only got his free hit left. Oh, and his triple captain.
And his triple captain. Oh, okay. Well,
I probably need to change Haaland from being captain as well, don't I?
I know I've got João Pedro and he scored me 2 points and I forgot to change him. And I was like, that's because I am the FPL player where I do my changes and forget to press confirm. And that happens to me most of the time.
There's only one FPL player worthy of being a captain week in, week out at the moment, and that is Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
Because he's on the verge of setting the Premier League record for assists in a season.
Yeah, he saved my week. He was my captain.
Yeah,
you know who I'm going to make captain now? Cheers, Simon.
Right. Talking of the rest, there's obviously a 3-week break, or that so now, but given the fact there's an FA Cup weekend and an international weekend coming up in quick succession, so Forest are back in action in their next league game against Villa. But just want to talk for a few minutes, guys, about the overall meaning of the 2 wins in the past week. What does that mean for the rest of the season? We'll start with you, Kate, because it could have gone so wrong, couldn't it? We were very worried pre-Midtjylland around playing the B team because that didn't guarantee us success against Spurs. It's turned out all right in the end because they've won both. What does this mean for the rest of the season in terms of an overall outlook?
I think we're doing a bit better, aren't we? 2 draws and a win and a quarter-final in Europe. This is better form, and we've been searching for the thing that's going to give us the edge, the thing that's going to, project us forward, keep us up. And I think that maybe we have stumbled upon something in this second string turning up and showing us that they are football players that can play for this club. And I take your point, Mollo, that it wasn't against an amazing opposition, but it was an opposition that had already beat us twice. And as we've also said before, you can only ever play what's in front of you. So there was definitely cause for hope there. And the fact that we're building 2 draws and a win, or 2 wins really, that's building, that's going in the right direction. And you can see that they are playing for the manager, which is another good thing. So things are looking up, things are looking better. You know, we've said it loads of times before, is this a platform? Can we build from here? I do think we've started to build, and I think the break for us does come at a good time. You know, we were having that discussion a little bit in the car on the way home from Spurs on Sunday. Could we actually do with more games now to continue this momentum? No, I think we finish strong, in a good position. We've got an upper point in the league. There is now some time for some rest and rehabilitation. We come back strong. So we've got a lot of fixtures when we come back in a short space of time. So that's how I finish my analysis. You know, rest up now, and I'll see you in Porto. And I'm going there with a little bit more confidence than I had when I got on that plane to Midtjylland. So yeah, I think we have done ourselves a big favour. And we're looking decent.
Mollo, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, or might have been last week, that somebody at some point was going to get a pasting. Now, it's turned out it's Spurs. We didn't know that pasting was going to come so soon. And if anyone was the big winners of the past weekend, it was Forest, because West Ham lost at Villa. Leeds could only draw at home to Brentford, so that's home points that Leeds have dropped. That means Forest are now obviously above Spurs and West Ham, but they're only a point behind Leeds. And it's a really good spot to go into this break, isn't it, given the fact that the next league game, Leeds are away at Man United, and who they themselves are fighting for Champions League. So there's a real opportunity, another opportunity for Forest to get even higher in the league. I don't think they're going to catch Palace. They're 7 points clear, so it looks like 15th, and Leeds is the target. It's a positive situation, isn't it?
It is, if we continue, and Kate touched on it there, it's a start. I never thought West Ham were going to get anything on Sunday anyway against Villa. Villa away is one of the toughest places to go. We've got them at home, so let's hope, but there again, we're not great at home at the minute, are we? Or haven't been. It is a better place to be. I think more than ever, having seen what we saw on Sunday, I think getting above and staying above Tottenham is critical, and I don't care if that ends up being, 17th. But if we are looking up and we are maybe getting a bit ahead of ourselves and get a bit ahead of ourselves, we've got a tough run in. But if we can win enough games to push up the table, then that would be amazing too. A few more quid in the bank. It's about £3 million per place, isn't it, in the Premier League? That would be lovely. It'd be lovely not to have to worry about that Bournemouth game on the last day of the season. But you look at the other fixtures and you can't help it, can you? You see that West Ham have got Wolves next, so despite Wolves' improvement, you're probably thinking West Ham are probably going to get something there, if not win it, because I think it's at home, isn't it? I know it's away, I can't remember, but you'd expect them to.
It's at West Ham. It's at home.
Yeah, you'd expect them to win that. So they could conceivably be back level on points with us if we don't do the business ourselves. And that's the difference now is, well, not now, it's been like this for a while, but it's 100% in our own hands, regardless of who we're playing and who we've got left to play and where we're looking for the points and Burnley and all this sort of stuff. It's a much happier place, as you say, to go into the break. And I kind of agree with what other people must have been saying in the car by the sounds of it, Kate. I actually think it would have been good to have had another game next week, and if this had come a week later while we've got this momentum. But, because, full 2 weeks off, whatever it is, things can change very quickly in this league, as we know. But if you look at the squads down the bottom in terms of names and players and what they're capable of and all that, Leeds need to be worried, because they're the only team who I can't think of one single player out of their squad, never mind their team, that I would particularly be interested in coming to Forest. Whereas everybody else has got players saying, I wouldn't mind him in a red shirt or him on, whatever. Despite how they played yesterday, they've still got some players, haven't they? Leeds' best player 2 years ago, was Archie Gray when he was about 17, 18, arguably, and he's now at Spurs. So it's a very short time to go, but a long way to go at the same time. There's 7 games left, but what we have done, it's in our own hands, and both West Ham and now Spurs are running out of games as well, bit by bit.
Yeah, Mollo mentioned the hard run in Chelsea that we've got. The last 4, Chelsea, Newcastle, Man United and Bournemouth, which is really difficult, but that means additional focus has got to be put on the 3 games prior to that. That's Villa and Burnley at home and Sunderland away. But those 3 games could be a key period in terms of which league Forest are going to be in next season, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's trying to set yourself up, isn't it, before the end of the season, because you don't want to end up having that more of an abundance of pressure in the last 2 or 3 games. And let's be honest, we all know Bournemouth are our kryptonite, and the fact that we've got them in the last game of the season makes me shudder, and I don't even want to see that as the last game. I don't even want to think about that. So you've got to if we put in the hard work now, then we're going to save ourselves at the end of the season, and I can actually go into it a bit more relaxed, knowing that we haven't got to whittle it down to the last game of the season. I literally was just having a little look at the running. I mean, don't get me wrong, we are in in a much better position now. We are only 3 points. West Ham have just got to win 1 game and they'll be level points with us. I know we're ahead of them on goal difference, and I know that can be just important to the last game of the season, but it is still only just those 3 points. We are more comfortable, we can breathe a little bit, but still, like Mollo said, I wish we did have a game, because then we know we can just keep that momentum and keep that going. But then you do want to go into the international break knowing that you've got 2 wins under your belt. So we are in a better position, but still, I would rather the next 3 Premier League games get just something, even a point, out of the games. Maybe it'd be great if we obviously won 1, maybe drew 2, but that's, trying to be a bit more realistic, but I can't really see it happening. But yeah, hopefully the confidence has been built, the momentum will just keep going, and hopefully it won't be to the last game of the season.
Wolves have got an important part to play because they're playing West Ham, Spurs and Leeds in consecutive weeks over the next 3 game weeks. They've got West Ham, then Leeds, then Spurs. So they're going to have an important part to play in this relegation fight, even though for all intents and purposes they're down themselves. But 1 week to keep an eye on is game week 36, where Spurs play Leeds at Spurs. So that is going to be key, because what it does mean is that somebody is going to, if not both of them, are going to drop points that weekend. And that's the weekend Forest play Newcastle, who may be on the beach that weekend, given the fact they're now out of Europe and are currently in 12th place and are going to find it difficult to qualify for European competition next season if that placing is anything to go by. So that week, game week 36, looks to be a key week as well, and quite a decisive moment for one or more of those teams, because West Ham have also got Arsenal that weekend as well. So game week 36 could be the week that a lot of things are decided down at the bottom. So we'll see.
Go on,
Wolves. Right. Yeah. I do want to talk about Morgan Gibbs-White not making the England squad, because I thought that was just a massive mistake made by the England manager. Great that Elliot Anderson has been called up, but I do feel sorry for Gibbs-White, because I thought, and I think you agree, Mollo, that he'd been playing pretty well over the last few weeks. Why isn't he in the squad, Kate? Why has he been omitted? I just don't understand the manager. And given the fact that there's been talk in the press about him calling up Max Dowman from Arsenal, who seems to be the next big thing, but he can't even break into the Arsenal team yet on a regular basis because he's only 16. So why are they talking about him and not Gibbs-White?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I felt really sorry for him when it was announced, because we know from watching him week in, week out, what a player he is and what value he adds to any side, and how that's been missed by the England collective, I do not know. It says to me that they're not doing their job properly. That's what it says to me, because he is that good. He is that good, and he absolutely deserves to be there. And all I can hope is that when the World Cup comes around, that they've seen it. And because I've used the word talisman earlier in the podcast, and for us he absolutely is. But he gets the rest of the team playing as well. He's doing such an amazing job. And they really have missed one there. He should be there.
My fear is that it will have wider implications for his future if he doesn't make that World Cup squad. Playing for Forest at the top of his game, there's not more he can do right now, I don't think. And if he doesn't get in,
I don't think you can blame that, though. I don't think you can, because that's the first thing that you think when you ask that question. It's because he doesn't play for a Big Six club. But Elliot's in there.
Yeah,
so exactly.
They've just got it wrong, Simon.
Yeah, they have. Right, shall we get back to the quiz then before we draw the episode to a close? Shall we see how many of us can get near
Have
to...
you not got a pen and
the
paper,
number of
Mollo, to
posts?
write them all down?
No, I haven't today.
I'm sorry.
We Mollo, unfortunately, we haven't got time to go through game by game.
That's all right.
If you fancy listing, I know you've got the knowledge up there somewhere, but let's have a round guess, shall we? You go first, Mollo. Chelsea and I can follow.
Based on his 10 in that first season, he only got 1 in that third season. Second season, he had that great start where he just kept scoring, and then Wood took it on, and I know they got 20 between them. And this season, he's obviously got 4 now. So I'm going. I don't know if my maths are all wrong there, isn't it? 20.
I think you're in the right area. I think I was going to go for 18-ish. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, around about then. Chelsea?
I'm going to go 23. Complete.
You're winning. I forgot his goals at Exeter.
Do you know what, Mollo? The answer is 20.
Oh,
Wow.
see?
But Simon, it's 18 in the league. So
Oh, that's not bad,
you
guess.
can give yourself
is it?
for that. Yeah, 8 in the league and 2 in the cup is what I've got. His first ever goal for us was a 1-0 win against West Ham.
Yeah, I remember it well. Another shinner.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
was, actually.
Yeah.
Beautiful shinner.
So yeah,
Right.
You know, the
um,
Gibbs White thing. That,
Yeah.
You know, clearly it's something Tuchel's not happy with. But I saw he's the second top scorer, English goal scorer in the Premier League now this season or something. Might be third. And since the new year, he's already got, 6 or 7 goals? And he's not a centre forward. So it is insane. On that alone, you'd be getting him. And the other number 10s in the squad, there's only Bellingham that you'd put way above him as a number 10 if he plays number 10. All the others are either struggling for form or not getting in their team, apart from Morgan. Morgan Rogers is probably the only one, but he's lazy. Awful thing to say. He's really good and really creative, but he hasn't got the work ethic that Morgan's got in terms of when we haven't got the ball and chasing around looking for the ball. So I'm not surprised, but I'm very disappointed for him. I think he deserves to be in there without a doubt.
Maybe
There's nothing more that
Tuchel
he can do. Ooh, sorry.
No, go on, Chelsea.
No, I'm just saying there's nothing more that he can do. You can't play like that and be at that level and not get called up. What else has he got to do? He can't.
Maybe
he can't.
Tuchel contacted the wrong Morgan to tell him he wasn't in the squad.
Because I'd say they both deserve to be in there. With that size squad, they both should be in there.
Yeah, 5 goalies.
Yeah, one's a training partner thing, isn't it? They're talking about. So I quite like the way he's done the squad, with the way he's split it and given players rests, and he talked about the minutes. That makes a lot of sense, and fair play to him for that. And we're always going to be a little bit biased towards our own players, but on this account, I'll rate the likes of Cole Palmer and Foden as fantastic talents, but they haven't been doing it this season like he has. Very, very strange.
All right, okay. We've been going for an hour. Let's draw the episode to a close then. Any final thoughts from you, Kate?
I think just to say, again, I might be suffering a little bit with my voice going and feeling a little bit under the weather, but I wouldn't change it for the world. What an incredible week to be a Forest fan. I've had the absolute time of my life, so thank you, Forest.
Great stuff. Mollo?
As a special mention for all those airlines out there that have been pumping up the price of their tickets, but you still won't stop us getting there, even though you're trying to charge £1,200 for a flight to Porto from Stansted. Do one.
Okay, and last word with you, Chelsea. Did you want to mention the gala?
Yes, I did, yes. The gala is this Saturday the 28th, and there is still tickets available for the Garibaldi Girls Gala. Please head over to our Instagram. The link is in the bio to get your tickets now. It's going to be an amazing night. A huge raffle, signed Forest shirts from the men's and the women's team, and another load of great prizes. So, yeah, there is still tickets available. Link in the Garibaldi Girls Instagram bio.
Excellent stuff. I'm sure that will be a great event, and maybe we can have a report back in our next podcast, because we've got a little bit of a gap now to where we're not going to be able to report on any games, but maybe we can squeeze in a pod to talk about the Garibaldi's Gala, because I know, Kate, you're going, aren't you? And Mono, you're obviously going as well, so I would be going also, but unfortunately I can't make it this week. But should be a great event.
Yeah,
looking forward to hearing all about it. In the meantime, that's it from us for a while. So thanks again, everyone, for listening or for watching. And as I said, we'll be back in your ears very soon. So bye for now.
LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I filed my return,
But I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though.
I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.